This is Talking My Walking. I am Rodrigo Ribeiro, and today I'm going to talk about what is the left and why it matters. The world, yes, the world, but let's talk about the Western world. Is divided into major groups. One is very small these days because of historic, because of the anti-communist propaganda and anti-state propaganda, anti-public public services and public well-being propaganda, and this is propaganda to demonize the state, the government, the left. But this left, we will that is a bigger issue, a wider issue, and the small group. There is a bigger group on the side of the private property rights, which is the dominant. By group, I mean a dominant view, worldview, a dominant paradigm, a dominant identity, cultural identity, because it is also ideological and cultural identity. It's not only the woke left, that is, or the wokeism, liberal progressivism, that is ideological and cultural. Also, these views, that's why people sometimes don't understand it, that these ideas of privatization is a dogma. This is idea of the profit maximization, all these ideas, market-driven ideas, are ideological and cultural, as social and economic and political, for sure. So the major group in society, ideologically and politically and culturally biased for privatization, for private property rights, private property above anything else, wealth accumulation, the search for profit, self-interest, and all that is related to this, to what I'm stating. It's a major group. It's a majority of us that believe in it. This is a belief. That's why it's a problem. It's nothing to do. It is a reality. But it has a belief system supporting it, a ideological belief system supporting it, in spite of being a lie, because we are not equals. We don't live in free societies. We live in societies based on manufactured scarcity, which means that we are coerced into condition of poverty, and that's not natural. It is part of a system. It is created by a system. That's why people don't think enough about why we never solve the problem of poverty, even in the wealthy countries. Why is that? Many of us believe that's because of individual choices and many other problems that have to do not with the system itself, not with its class-based society, where all the society is organized to funnel the wealth upwards, not downwards. There is no such trickle-down economics. That is trickle-down poverty. Trickle-down poverty is the truth. When the wealth gets to the bottom, the trickle-down economics, when the wealth gets to the bottom of the pyramid, of the social pyramid, it just cramps. Not even that. And this is a feature of the system. This is not. Doesn't happen by random or accident or because it's unfortunate. No, this is how the system is set to work. Is designed to work. I truly believe that the majority of us, even many people that believe that identify themselves with the left, whatever that means. That's why it is important to define for this moment in history what the real left is, because everything seems to be left these days. Liberals, liberal progressives, neoliberals, all these parties that used to be social democratic, the Democratic Part of America or Labour in Australia or in Canada or in Britain. I mean, all these parties are neoliberal, the ranks are filled with neoliberals and neocons, but they still be pictured as left, especially by the opponents and by the populist, nationalist, and conservative right, because they want. That's the point. They want us to perceive that the problems that we have been created by them. Even they associate it with cases like this guy that was murdered a few days ago. I don't think Kirk or whatever is the name of the man. This is why we need to develop a culture. We need to train ourselves to acquire cultural immunity against this weaponization of the left. Because what we are destroying is our possibilities of organizing and uniting around values and principles that we need to transform our societies. This is nothing. We don't need to be communists or socialists or Marxists or Marxist-Leninists or Maoists or Trotskyists. We just need to have a set of values and principles which we agree that they are left, and we all, in spite of our tendencies, of our identities, which means that we might be more pro-Marxian tradition, or not these divisions, artificial divisions created by academics. Okay? Because many academics, they have too much time, free time, and they have their and the money to do whatever they want, and that is more. We don't need many fantasies. We need to deal with real values and principles that have to be the base, the platform, the foundations of the economy, of the society, and of the civilization. Because otherwise we don't know, we are just instrumentalized, because everything is weaponized, and the left is so demonized that many people don't I mean, it's so, oh, there is no left, it doesn't make any sense to talk about left and right and blah. No, it makes sense because there is a division. If we need to have, and that is a left value, we need to have a class analysis of society to start with. And a class analysis of society needs to be, we need to understand the role of the state and the role of the government and the role of the universal public services, social housing. Because if we believe that everything can be delivered to us by private, that everything should be privatized, we talk about the matrix, we talk about technocracy, we talk about this and about that, and most people that talk about it, they don't understand, or they don't care, or they intentionally use it, because it's much worse that if you allow the private wealthy oligarchs and plutocrats to control the state, because the state is not, forget about anarcho-capitalism, forget about any libertarian idiocy, because these people are idiots. When they think about that it is possible to organize a complex society without a state and without a government, it is an absolute idiocy, because it's not possible. What we need to discuss is what kind of government. The state is just a set of institutions. The state doesn't have life by itself. The state is what we want it to be. That's what I mean. And who controls the state is what matters. And what's the purpose of the state is what matters. Okay? Don't be against the state because the state is you. And the state can be used against you. The institutions of the state can be used against us, or can be used for the well-being, for the collective well-being, for the social cohesion. So, what is important is to understand what is the role of the state and of the government, and how we the many, we the people, can really have democratic control of the policies, that we can keep the people that are in positions of power accountable. When not through the next election, but immediately. And now we are not even able to imagine a system that can work like that. And why is that? It's because we don't think about it. We just take the institutions and the ways the system work for granted. And we just are always have to repeat it again and again under the spell of Tina. There is no alternative. It is easier to see the end of the world than the end of capitalism. And that is why, again, if we want to have if you want to have a class analysis of our societies, if you want to understand how our societies really work, we need also to understand how capitalism works, what capitalism really is, and why so many of us are part of the majority that believes in capitalism, believes in a class structure, hierarchical structure of society organized with these principles and values of exploitation, coercion, non-accountability for the powerful, the extreme and unlimited accumulation of wealth and private property and power and control. And as I was saying, there are many people among those that are against the technocratic state, okay, against the control of, against all this, these control policies like CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, digital identity, and other, the social points and this and that. Of course, I do understand that this can be used for social control, but this can also be used for the social well-being, especially. But the problem is that the people that sells these ideas, these ideological these narratives, they frame it in a way that the problem is always the state and the government and the left. Okay? The problem is of the left because they want to go after our wealth. They want to rob us of our wealth. Okay, that's always the problem, that they tell us that the left wants to rob us. And we believe it. We don't, because this left is a kind of entity that lives in the heater, okay, and is like a Damocles spade hanging over our heads, that anytime they can come for us. It is the same principle of the Red Scare. There are communists everywhere trying to eat, they eat children for breakfast. And because many of us don't have the ideological and political maturity, which means that we are very easily instrumentalized, because we don't know exactly what the real values and principles stand for. We buy into the narratives, into the propaganda, because it's decades of constant, continuous propaganda demonizing the left, using And then the fall of the USSR was used to say, okay, you see, it doesn't work. It doesn't matter, I'm not going to discuss if it was good or bad, because it was not as bad as many people paint it, but it was not as good as it could be as well. But there are more examples. What we need to understand, it was a battle. And the private, that is again the problem. You know, it's a long history of imperialistic civilization that has culminated in the capitalist system and the rule of the world by a capitalist class. This is not communist talk. That's why you need to get over it. This is historic facts. How a reality, economic, political, and social and cultural reality was built over time by an elite that has controlled the world, our societies, the world, our imagination and our minds and our bodies through these ideas of the free market, as if the free market was meant to free us, which is the opposite. The free market and the commodification of everything is not to free us, is to make us dependent on wages, make us dependent on where anything we need to survive needs to be bought. Now, you know, you need to have to pay tariffs everywhere you go, to use a bridge, to use a parking spot, to use a highway. Do you have to pay rent for a house that could be owned by the city council? And even it used to be like that, but now not anymore, because now you are supposed that there is only way to save all the problems: privatize, privatize, and privatize. But most of the privatization is financialization. It's not to build new houses or new roads or repair the bridges or build hospitals or make the schools or they make the education system work better. No. It's just that everything needs to be owned by the same people. By this minority, this tiny minority of people that control everything. So if you want to understand technocracy, do not associate it immediately with the left. Do not think about Stalinism. There might be a technocratic and a bureaucratic state, centralized, but power in the West is centralized. Capitalism is technocratic. Do not just because the most of the stories that you listen to, or the videos you watch, or even the books you read, tell you otherwise. You need to to build an analytic, to be more, to have the ability to see through it. Because we have a technocratic state, and it is capitalistic. We have a centralized state, it is capitalistic. Our lives have been impoverished by capitalism. Why? Because they stopped. Because that's how capitalism works. It goes from being productive or industrial capitalism to financial capitalism. That's how we in the West have what we have. Capital always look for the places where they can build more value, to add more value. That's why our societies became unproductive and financialized. Because for them, for the capitalist class, was more profitable to not do anything, to produce everything abroad, and to financialize the economies, which means to look only for rents, because that's what it is. And rents require inflation. These rents are based in speculation. The prices don't go up because they need to go up. They go up because in order for this class of parasites make more money, they need those prices to go up artificially. And therefore, all our living standards go down because the wages do not meet the rise of the prices, the inflation. And then they tell us this is incredible how we swallow it, but we swallow it because they frame it in ways that we swallow it. Many of us swallow it, that we need austerity because we are living above our means, so we need to cut social well-being, the social welfare. We need to cut in the public education, public services, health care. We need to pay more to get less to save the system, because they scare us. They tell us that if we do nothing, we will not have pensions. There will be this and that and so forth and so on, because there is no. They sell us a lot of stories. They are not true. It doesn't mean that we don't have problems that we have to face and to solve. That's not the point. The point is that they frame these problems in ways that what they want is to exploit fear in order to make us freeze, in order to make us feel helpless. And therefore we need them to solve the problems. And since the left is framed as useless, as the source of the problems, who are the saviors then? If the liberals are the ones that are the liberals, the progressives, the social democrats, the Christian democrats, all these ideologies and political parties that have been hijacked by neoliberals and neocons, they are described as failing us. They are not failing us. They have failed, but purposefully. It was not by a mistake. It was not a mistake. And it was not the left. It was them. It was the neoliberal and the neoconservative classes that has purposely weaponized the system in order to make sure that we don't have any agency. They made us totally powerless. If we do not have strong organizations at the grassroots level, unions, left political parties, left organizations, movements, and whatsoever, organized and united, and being conscious of what are the set of values and principles that really make the left and why we need to fight for them, we just get confused. We just start to be on the side of our enemies, because what we need to understand is that what the so-called they call left, which are the liberals, the neoliberals, the social democrats, the center left, and all that people, you know, they call them left, but they all have in common the same thing with the far right, or the populist right, the conservative right, the nationalist right, okay? What they have in common, all of them, is the primacy of private property. And that's why they want us to believe that this faction, that is the liberals, the liberal progressives, the center left, the center right, the Christian Democrats, and all these people that have been the so-called moderates, okay, that have been in power for decades, they are the left. Okay, these people are the left. So, but these left have much more in common with them, with the ones that are now the saviors, okay, even including people that are proto-fascists, which their parties, if are not fascistic yet, they might become fascistic. They are all in the same path. They always believe in the same thing: capitalism, the primacy of private property, the privatization of everything, which means the commodification of everything and the control of everything in private hands. So, and by everything controlled by private hands, it also means the state and the government. And that is the concept of Italian fascism, the idea of Mussolini. It was the merging the state and the corporation. You know, the corporations, the plutocrats and the oligarchs are the ones that are supposed to control the state and the government. Those who tell us stories about abolishing the government and abolish the state are idiots, are delusional. They don't understand how the need for that kind of organization and institutions for complex societies to be functional. This is not about a luxury. The state and the government is a need. So technocracy is fascistic by nature. If you think that is leftist, you don't understand it. And if you confuse it with the people that tell you that say, okay, these people want like China, like the Chinese, they always painting the Chinese, because if the Chinese was a right-wing dictatorship or a capitalist state, which is not, at least the economy is capitalistic, but the state is not capitalistic, they will be praising China. The reason why they do not praise China, it's because they want to associate. That's how the frames work, the language framing works. They want us to associate China with CBDCs, with social points, with like the Uyghur stories. Does it matter it was lies? No. It matters that if you believe it, you believe it. And if you associate with left communism, that's wonderful. Then you don't want to understand the truth. You don't even care for digging further or deeper. I'm not trying to defend China. I'm trying that we need facts. And if we do not understand that technocracy, a technocratic system, that's what these oligarchs, these tech oligarchs want, is a techno-fascistic state, okay, run by a technocratic system for a transhumanistic society. They don't want to, that's the point. The state is not going anywhere and the government is not going anywhere. They just want to, like Peter Thiel said, they want to replace politics with technology, which means they, the wealthy, they, the billionaires, want to run the show using technology. It's not the communists. You know? Because the CBDCs, they can be used to abolish the banking system that we have. But most of us don't know it, don't understand it. Which means that the CBDCs that would allow us to have a direct account, banking account with the central bank, we would not need these banksters to suck our blood. Okay? We could have a banking and financial system that would be for the good of society. That's what we do not have now. That's the opposite. And most of us don't understand it, don't try to learn anything about it. And that's why we are so easily fed with stories that make us think that all the problems are caused by the left. You know, that left that exists in the heater, it just is here, is above our heads, it's always looking, it's always waiting for an opportunity to kill us or whatever. And many good people, well-meaning citizens, just buy into it. We are not born left or right, okay? We just, over time, we identify more with certain value. I mean, because the stories, I mean, it's the belief that, okay, what is better for me and for my family, what works better, and then this is part of it is based on facts, and part of it is based on stories. Because, for example, most of us until now today believe that the banking system functions as intermediaries, and they do not. Every time they are the ones responsible for the creation of money through credit. So this is when you understand it, you can there is a lot of things that change in your worldviews. And basically most of us maybe can go from cradle to grave without understanding how the banking system works. And nevertheless, most of our beliefs is that is, it is deeply influential. Money and issues related with money, our political views, our ideological views, always involve money. because it's always about how resources, and money can be a resource in the sense that the state, the government can use the money for many different purposes, and we can also use the money for different purposes. So the money, who creates the money, how the money is allocated, which means for what purposes, is very important, because it will define how the society works, how the economy works, for the benefit of whom. And that's why it is always important to follow the money. It's always important to ask cui bono. And many of us, because we are fat, we just take money as like capitalism. We just take this system and this ideology and this thing, between quotes, as we call money, as granted. We don't ask questions about it, and we don't even try to understand the consequences of it, because there are always consequences. There is nothing. It's like ideas, policies, choices, political choices, and everything has consequences. And we have no agency. And if we have agency, in order to use our agency properly, we need to be conscious. We need to have the knowledge. We need to understand the facts. We cannot only think about CBDCs and that's bad. And I'm against it because of a few stories that were framed in a way that make it sound horrible. But you are going to have it, and that is a fact. And that's the problem. That people say, oh, I'm against it. And so what? Are you going to do anything really effective to prevent it from becoming reality? No. Actually, you are not going to do anything. You are not going to stop using your cards. You are going to continue to use your banking account. And if you think you are going to use cryptocurrencies, and therefore you are safe, you are delusional. Whatever uses a digital system can be controlled. It doesn't matter if it's through blockchain or whatever. That's just bullshit. So, if you whether you want it or not, the reality is that we are going to have CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. I believe that's what matters is who controls it. That's to me what really matters. So we should discuss not if it's going to be a reality or not, because that's that is going to be, if you want to be realistic, that is going to be a reality. What you need to understand is who controls it, and how can we organize to make sure that we have political agency to have control over the governance of our societies. And that's where the left principles and values matter. because that division between left and right is the division between who controls what. And the left, the true principles and left values, it's about that. Who controls? Who controls and how the power is distributed. This is the real principles of the left. This has nothing to do with the wokeism, because there is, as I said before, and I repeat it again, there is left wokeism and there is right wokeism. Of course, those on the right don't see it as wokeism, but it is wokeism. And it is wokeism. Why? Because it's ideological. You know, being against immigration is ideological. It's nothing to do with the real needs, with the real immigrations issues. There is immigrations with immigrants. There might be problems with some people that come to the Western countries, and they might be criminals, and you need to deal with them as criminals, not because they are immigrants, but because they are criminals. So you need to have laws, of course, but you don't need to criminalize immigration. You know, you don't need to be against people that want to have an abortion. You just need to understand that, okay, we might have some rules or some, okay, that's fair enough. But not just to be against it ideologically, because there's nothing to do, it has to do about control. That's one of the people don't understand that the right, this right spectrum, or political spectrum, they always seem to be against government and against the state, but they are not. And you need to understand it. They are not against the state. They are only against the welfare state. They are only against the governments that want to provide for the good of society, for the collective well-being, because they are, and that's why the liberals are in the same page, they are for privatizing everything controlled by private ends. And everything is controlled by private ends. Surely the state and the government is controlled by private ends. And you and me and the majority of us, where does our power, can we have an agency in these circumstances? Of course not. That's an impossibility. Arithmetic impossibility, mathematical impossibility, rational impossibility, logical impossibility, okay? So this division, and when people talk down to you, you know, when you just, they look down into you, I mean, you know, that's just like, okay, lefty, you know, that kind of diminishing. People that have to work hard every day and live paycheck to paycheck, okay, and have to pay high rents or high mortgages in order to have a roof over their heads and to put food on the table, to have food on the table. And these people don't understand that the right populist, like Mr. Trump, or whatever, doesn't matter. I'm not going to, it's not about names anyways. It's not about, populist, nationalistic, conservative, fascistic right, or even the moderate right, such as the Christian Democrats and things like that. But also, as I said, the liberals, the center left, because they are all neoliberals, okay? They are all neoliberals at this point in history. If they say, okay, it's no left and right, this is a mess, we live in the post-truth reality, and these people, they really want to clean up the system, because the state is spending too much, and this and that, and all this ideological this way to frame that reality is framed, and that's this big issue that we need to learn how relevant, how crucial it is, language framing. You go and look in people like George Lakoff or other cognitive linguistics that lead with the framing, language framing. That you need to understand how it works, how it is important, how it transforms, how it is used to manipulate perception, to manufacture consent, okay? This has nothing to do with I always say I remember to be in the side of the people that, okay, we need to read, it's important to read, it doesn't matter what you read. So it was kind of that one of the most important things that we should do in our lives is read books. But there is a catch. When you read books, or watch movies, or listen to talk shows, or, podcasts, whatever we do, that we expose ourselves voluntarily to messages, we are exposing ourselves to language framing. And that language framing uses metaphors, okay, in order to give us pictures, to picture the reality with frames. And then that process of framing conveys patterns and paradigms and perceptions that influence our views, that become implicit memories. They're part of our bibliothèque, our library, okay? And that's how our identity, how we perceive ourselves and how we perceive the world. That's how we build that identity. That's how we build our political identity and ideological identity and cultural, and how we perceive society, what's the function of the economy, and everything else. That's how it happens with us. There is no other way. So, if we do not understand this basis of the relevance of framing when we are exposed to it, and then that we need to understand the logical fallacies that are used to intentionally or unintentionally, but they have impact. That's the problem. It doesn't even matter if it's intentional or unintentional, it has an impact. And the stronger our belief, the more reinforced our belief becomes, of course, the deeper and wider and profound is the impact on us. And it doesn't matter if it's a lie or true, because it's not about that. It's logical for us. Therefore, it doesn't really matter. That's why we need to understand these, to learn about these issues, because they play an important role in how knowledge and identity is acquired, is formed, and why and why we need to have the principles and values that really really function as poles, as the boundaries, as not only in inspiration, but as the principles that define our analysis. Because we cannot only make analysis based. We don't even sometimes know how the analysis how we analyze the reality of parts of the reality, fragments of the reality. Do we know sometimes what we are doing? What kind of tools are we using? Intellectual tools, cultural and ideological tools are we using? Where does the patterns that we use to analyze it, where they come from? How did we acquire them? Do we ask those questions? Are they important or not? Don't we need to go deep into the understanding of reality in order to make assumptions? In order to make decisions and choices, political choices? Like in the case I'm trying to make, and liking to become, to defend, to align with a political party or a movement, a social movement or an organization or whatever. It's not only about feeling good or sharing some superficial, because that's superficial. Because again, if I go back to the wokeism, left or right wokeism, that means in many ways that what we do is that we align with people that are able to weaponize these issues, but it doesn't mean that we do understand at a deeper level. Maybe we just understand them at a superficial level. And this shallowness, this fragmented and shallow understanding of reality transforms us into useful idiots. Okay? And for many of us, we don't want to admit it, we deny it, but it doesn't matter. Historically, it doesn't matter, because it's not going to change anything. Because if we do not understand that the concentration of power and the representative democracy is managed democracy, it doesn't matter in which hands we hand it over, to which hands we hand it over, okay? Because the problem, it's a power who controls the wealth, the power, who has the power, you know. And if we do not have any democratic, if you don't have democratic agency to make accountability work, political, economic, social, cultural, work, legal, it doesn't matter. That's who I leverage in order for us, the majority, to have leverage. We need to have some control over the state. The institutions, the state institutions are ours. They don't belong to any particular person or organization. They need to represent us. All state institutions. You know, and if there is the need for there is the need for the bureaucracy, because the state apparatus needs to work, but needs to be accountable. We cannot have a permanent bureaucracy that's part of the deep state that controls us over decades, because they are not accountable. They are not. They are the state. They control the state apparatus, but not for our well-being. It's just everything in the name of the powerful. And who are the powerful? They are the capitalist class. That's what you seem to not understand. They are not communists. They are not leftists. By any stretch of the imagination, okay? And either we understand it, or we just, we are done. We are literally done. If we are going to support, as we are witnessing, people shifting from the center right and the center left to the populist and nationalistic and fascistic right. Do they know what they are doing? They believe they do. But time will prove them wrong. Because they are not sanitizing the state. They are allowing the same elites to have more control over the state. Not less. So, don't be confused about the left. The left, if it has to be, it has very simple principles. And that is, for me, that's what defines the left. Otherwise, if the left is not defined, if we do not define the left around these principles, then I don't really know what the left is. And these principles that I'm going to mention, they are not owned by anybody, okay? That's the one point I want to make. They are not Marxist, Leninist, communist, socialist, Trotskyist, whoever it is, doesn't matter. Okay? It's not because it's not important the work of other people. It's because I always try to mention it, that it's never about people. It's never about heroes. Do they exist? Yes. Leaders, saviors, and this and that. Doesn't matter that some people the work of certain people, the heroism, the courage of certain people are not important. Should we admire and respect them? Sure. Don't we learn with them? Sure. But we must never transform it in a religion. Because it is about principles and values and ideas, not people. Okay? We need to rally, to organize around principles, values, and ideas, not people. Because people come and go. And we cannot remember all of them. And maybe many of those that will be anonymous forever, they have played a huge role, and nevertheless nobody knows about them. So it's not about people. Okay? So, class. The notion of class or caste is the idea that we have a society, or we have societies, and we have this paradigm, this imperialistic paradigm civilization that is, you have it, it's transversal, it's everywhere in every civilization, doesn't matter what kind of system. It's imperialistic. It is because it's based on expansion. It's based on growth, economic growth, whatever growth. Growthism, productivism, expansionism, it is imperialism. It is imperialistic. It has to be imperialistic. It has to go to other people's land and plunder, legally or through war, through commerce or through war. So this is because in order to sustain a class or caste-based societal system, which means for the accumulation of wealth and power and control on the top tier of the hierarchical pyramid, social pyramid, that this is required. This is not a mistake. This is a feature of the system, of a class or caste-based system. There is no limit for the greed of this sociopathic and psychopathic class. Okay? So the oligarchs and plutocrats, today's oligarchs and plutocrats are not different from those of the Roman Empire or any other empire. Because this has been and this still is the predominant culture and economics. That's why capitalism represents it. It's not a mistake. Capitalism is the system that is between capitalism and imperialism. It's a direct association. It's a direct. It's synergetic. It's a synergy. So this class, it is required to, class is therefore one of the principles that one of the major obstacles for any left economic and societal and system. We cannot have a left, okay, society, a left-based societal system, and at the same time keep the class and caste-based system. It's an impossibility. It's not feasible. And it doesn't matter, again, because a class or caste-based system can be also organized on the left as part of the bureaucratic. If we have a system, any system that makes people, certain groups or factions or professions or functions or roles being entitled with privileges that are negated, that are denied to others, you already have a caste system. This is very important to understand, because this is equality is about understanding that nobody is entitled with privileges. It doesn't matter which role, profession, or function does the individual performs or is responsible to. And until we do not really understand it, do not make it part of our value system as one of the core principles, I think we have not really come to grips with the instrumentalization of the colonization of our minds by a value system that is based in inequality, that is defined by inequality. Okay, we cannot just bypass this point. Okay, this is for me clear. The second is private ownership versus public ownership. In these matters, I don't have a definitive position, which means that I do believe that there is the need for the state to have certain monopolies, such as the monopoly of the sovereignty of money issuance, and the universal basic services, and other functions that only the state can provide in our name and for the collective well-being, with our political consent, our political authority, and for the collective well-being. So that's why What matters is who controls the state. It's not the state itself. And I want this point to be really clear. Don't blame the state. We have almost 200 countries, and all these countries, they need a state apparatus, they need organization, we need international rules, and we need to build stability, political, geopolitical and geoeconomic stability and cooperation. Therefore, we need this organization at the national level and at the international level, okay? And it needs to be democratic. It means, which means that the power needs to be distributed, not concentrated. Okay, so can we have private property? Can we own private property? It might be there is some part of the rewarding system that you might own private property, but if we or some of us want to defend the existence of private property, that needs to be, as the same thing goes for private wealth and wages. There is the need for a ceiling, a maximum ceiling. We cannot think that we can accumulate wealth and whatever without any limits. That's another feature of inequality, which means that for those of us who believe that, we believe in the fairness of inequality, and we live in the myths and the mythology of meritocracy, which I don't deny merit. I do know that meritocracy is a lie. Merit is one thing. The myths of meritocracy are lies. So this is kind of, to me, open issue for debate, because it might make sense to allow some private property to exist. But I want to emphasize that private property doesn't make us more free, because all of us that are in debt, in order to that huge mortgage, or for whatever, for a car or other stuff that we are for decades into debt, we are not more free. It's the opposite. So if you could enjoy a house, or we can use a car, or we can use other services for free, or for a fee or a small rent, it means that we could use, instead of owning but not being exploited by the capitalism rules, which is to exploit, to extract rents, but to provide a real service, which is the role of the state, to provide a service at a minimal cost, not for profit. I think that if you could understand it, or if you can make an effort to understand it, therefore you might think that it might not make much sense that we put private property primacy above anything else, like the profit maximization and self-interest. It seems theoretically, it seems because we are so used to it, that we just fight for it. That's the American dream. You know, we fight all our lives to have a house, to have a car or two, to buy a bigger house, to compete with our neighbors and with our family, to show them that we have a better car or a better house or we live in a better neighborhood or whatever. Just nonsense. And we even buy things that we don't need with the money we don't have, again, to oh my gosh, I don't remember, to impress people we don't like. Okay, that's just nonsense. So this requires a revolution of the mind, a revolution in values and principles. This requires that we learn, when we train ourselves, to see, to observe, to analyze the reality where we live, the systems and subsystems that where our life, where we need to survive, in perspective. Because there is the dominant ideological, the value system, the belief system, the principles that support our dominant views, worldviews of the world. They dominate us. They are those that define our identity, our cultural identity, how we see ourselves, how we perceive ourselves, how we perceive our relations, and how we perceive the world. And we can only challenge this order, this ideological and cultural order, psycho-socio-cultural order that lives, that is alive in our cognitive and affective systems as implicit memories, as part of our identity, that we, in order to defy them, we need a conscious training, a process of a conscious transformative process that to allow us that maybe we have been or are buying into lies. There are, and those lies, they might make us feel good, or make us feel part of or part of a movement, or part of a group, of our need to belong, to be accepted, to be loved, or just to have, or just because we identify. It has nothing to do with the truth. That's why we need to do our research, because this is not belief. Any belief system, any ideological system, is a zero-sum game, which means there is consequences. That's why we need to be, it's not about being smarter, it's about being, to have a sustained research, a sustained analysis. And by sustained analysis, I mean a consequence. That we do engage ourselves in an introspective analysis, about our ideological, about the frames, about the narratives and the language framing process by which our beliefs and our values and principles, in order to understand why they do matter to us, and because we need to have these things clear, not because we get instructions, because we are dictated by the dictates of somebody else, but because we do our own work, our research, including this introspective work, not just because we go and look into documents or we look for authorities. Because anytime we look into whoever it is, you will find flaws. If you look carefully, you will find flaws, inaccuracies, because that's how human nature works. That's why we should not follow authorities or leaders, but we need to have a body of values and principles that we can follow, not as mantras. Do not follow mantras. You need to be conscious. That's the reality, and it is a conscious process, not following beliefs. It's not about following. It's always emphasize this, because this is crucial. It's not about following something. It's about believing. It's not about believing. It's about being always in the process of a conscious transformation, because it's a process that occurs in a living system. It's not about anything that is outside of us. It's inside of us and needs to be alive, but not as a mythical entity. It's a living thing. It's a living process. And this I can go on and on, but this is so. These two principles, which is the class, caste, and the public and private notions, concepts, and frames of work, they need to be clear to us, and it is really where there is a clear division, fracture, between where the left, that divides the left and the right. What divides the left and the right? It's exactly the values and principles that define the structure, the pillars of the economy and the society and civilization itself. And this is why, if you, which is most of us, are poor, working class, and working class, everybody that has a wage, that lives, that needs a wage to survive, is working class. But the poor, the working class, the middle class, the ones that are not, that might have a feeling of superiority, that might have that feeling of superiority or entitlement, but actually they don't belong to any influential group. This is a real problem, because there are so many people they have this feeling of entitlement and superiority and meritocracy and all these things, but they are not influential. They don't have they don't call the shots, as they say. They are just, they might be a bit wealthy, they might have a good life, but they depend on the dictates from the upper echelons, which means that their lives can change. They are not, and that's exactly one very important point. They do not control their destinies. And if we do not control our destinies, we do not have any political agency, meaningful political agency, and therefore we are peons, disposal peons, useful idiots. Not free citizens. We can enjoy certain freedoms, that's true, but only if we comply. If we do not defy the system, if you think about your life and about the role that we should have in a society and what should a good life be, not about owning anything, it's about really having freedom, having a meaningful life. We need a roof over our heads, we need food, we need certain comforts in order to have a life that allows us to build meaning and purpose. But what this system offers us in exchange for that is bullshit jobs or shitty jobs for most of us. To which we receive many times not a reward, but a survival fee. I could call it a survival fee, because what you receive is not to thrive, is not to become more free, or have more time for yourself and for your family, or for whatever you want to do with your time, which is life. I always emphasize this point. Time is life. That's why it matters a lot. No, you just receive a fee for your that you can survive. You receive the paycheck, then you can survive from paycheck to paycheck. And if you don't agree, it's your problem. Because society doesn't exist. There is no such thing as society. Margaret Thatcher. Therefore, we are just individuals competing with each other, families competing with each other, corporations competing with each other. But the capitalist class, they don't want competition. Do you remember? Peter Thiel said not long ago, more than once, competition is for losers. And do you remember the Rockefeller? That was also, that you can find it in the internet, that he said competition is a sin. Yes, that's how they perceive competition. They are monopolists. Capitalists are cartelists and monopolists. Competition is for us. It's the same thing. It's capitalism for the poor and socialism for the rich. That's why they want the state. It's supposed to operate as a safe haven for them. As the lifeboat for them. Not for us. I don't know if we should continue use the term left or right or whatever. That's not for me to decide for sure. But what we need to really get clear is the values and principles and the ideas by which we want to live. And there is a huge difference between the values, principles and ideas of the right and of the true left. Therefore, if you, I would, if you care about equality, collective well-being, justice, truth and trust, I think you should you should be careful and not buy into the rhetoric, into the demagoguery that puts the blame on the left. You know, everything that is happening is for some reason the responsibility of the left. So I would ask you that you should, I would beg you that you should not buy into it so easily. Do your research, find out which are the principles, values and ideas that really matter to you, that you think could bring a society and a civilization that humanizes us instead of dehumanizing us, and then make up your mind, and do not be shy to challenge and do some introspective work around your ideological, cultural, political biases, because we all have them, and we need to we should not take them for granted, otherwise we are fundamentalists. We need to be always open to change, but if we want to be in charge of that change, we cannot just be open to all the rubbish that is everywhere, the ubiquitous rubbish, that intellectual rubbish, news, reports, is so much misinformation and disinformation that is influencing us. It just is, because it's ubiquitous, it's everywhere, it's in everything we listen. That's why we need to build this ability to have an analytical mind, to train it, and to look for the knowledge, and the intellectual knowledge and the intellectual tools that helps us doing the job. Because we live in the age of disinformation. That is true. We do live in that age. So this is going to be all for today. Thanks for listening. I will be back soon.